I'm Patrick.
I'm Will.
And I'm Chris. And you're listening to Guys with Issues.
Let's talk about the AI taglines you posted. Those were funny.
Those are pretty good. The what do they call those?
Taglines?
Yeah, tagline.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
I know. I just, whew.
Is that beer getting to you, or
He's only in his first. Will's got 7 down.
well, 2? If you don't count the one I had at home.
7 down, 12 to go. Where did I put that?
In your pocket for later.
All right.
Hey, you know how we talked about going to
podcast
C2E2?
discussion.
Did we put, yeah, C2E2.
I have talked to several people who did go to C2E2, unlike us, since we decided not to go. And I got to hear a whole bunch of stories and see pictures from people's adventures. And I told them all that we were probably going next year.
Oh, I would imagine we're going to go next year.
Yeah, we'll have a plan.
We'll have to see how much a booth
No,
is.
we're guys with issues, not guys with plans.
I mean, you've got a point.
Will's always got a point.
So did you want to talk about some of these taglines?
Oh, I was going to say the first one was amazing.
Just like, was it the first? I was thinking, I thought the second
Guys
one was
with issues, where comics and confessions collide.
Yeah, that one was good. I also I think it was the second one.
For guys who don't care what you think.
That is, I one or two.
So just know, listeners, the AI thinks that we don't care what you think, and we may not care what you think about us.
Also thinks we're a little bit crazy.
But I think that you should think
that's the last
that
one.
we do think highly of you.
We do. You're the reason we do this, listeners. You're the reason.
I mean, also because we enjoy it.
All 5 of you.
That's true. You think by this time we'd have 5? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Look, I'm being
Is that
optimistic.
counting the 3 of us in the room?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then for sure.
Yeah, 5 of us.
I'm sure I could get somebody to listen to it. Gunner's going to listen.
Yeah, there you go. That's one.
I slap my legs now that we're standing.
do you need to sit down, Chris?
No. Sit down, Chris. That was my nickname.
Sit down,
Every
Chris.
time you had to get picked for sports. Sit down, Chris.
I thought that's what your parents said to you almost every day.
No, that was sit still, Chris.
Oh, that was sit still.
Sit still, Chris was my parents always called me sit still, Chris, because that was the command. My dad hated when I would shake the dinner table because my legs are always bouncing. Those of you out there who relate to having some major ADHD, holler. Yeah, shaking the gravy, in the bowl because your legs can't sit still under the table. It's a thing. Gravy shaking.
I believe it.
Legs bacon.
Sure.
You believe it. I believe it. Yeah. Oh, that's going to be one of our shirts one day. Patrick, I believe it. Or I don't believe it, depending which you'd prefer. That's so funny.
I personally think they should get both.
On the front, it'll say, I believe it. On the back, it'll say, I don't believe it. So if someone says something and you believe it, you just keep facing them. If they say something you don't believe,
you walk away.
Turn around and be like, I don't believe you.
Okay, I just want this shirt at this point.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That is funny.
That is really
I like
good.
it. That's going to be our first merch, guys.
First merch.
Well,
in about 3 years.
We did mention in the last episode that we all went to see Dungeons and Dragons. We didn't go see it together. Will came with my wife and I, and Patrick saw it with his brother.
Yeah, my brother and my niece.
Did they also enjoy it?
Oh, yes, immensely. They play D&Ds too, as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, we all thought it was a great film. Super fun to watch, pretty well done, and can overlook any of the missteps of just normal filmmaking because it was a fun time. It was a fun movie to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And it was definitely a homebrew campaign, so people need to stop complaining that they didn't follow every rule of D&D because it was a fun movie.
It was. So what portion were you talking about where the players screwed up and the DM had to?
It was the part at the bridge.
It was okay, so that's what I figured, but I didn't know if there was another part.
The DM NPC specifically lays out this very complex puzzle that they clearly spent a lot of time developing just for the players to be like, oops.
I didn't realize the bridge started here. I thought it started over there.
But I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Super fun.
And he had to pull a fix out of thin air.
So
with the teleport stick, the portal.
I could just hear the DM going, "Hey, pull out that walking stick that you tell."
So the entire movie, I thought and I cannot pronounce the Arachaka. Is that how you pronounce the bird people's race?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, I thought his name was Jonathan.
Is that not what he said?
It is not Jonathan. It's like Jonathan or something like that.
Oh, I thought he said Jonathan.
No, his name's not
Jonathan. Coming? That was hilarious.
This whole thing would make a lot more sense when Jonathan's here.
Yeah.
My favorite part's when they're like, we chose to pardon you.
I know, right? Which is the players, reacting before the DM has given them all the information.
It's definitely...
It is 100%. It is so good.
I just like that it's very clear that you can enjoy it as a fun kind of Guardians of the Galaxy funny styled fantasy movie.
Right.
But if you've played D&D and you're not like a nitpicker, there is so much that you can just envision being played around the table.
I may have made that a little stronger than I thought it would.
Pat just took a drink. Fun time, Pat.
Pat took a drink and there was a long pause before you felt like continuing.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So, yeah, D&D. I really hope they make more of those types of movies because those are the types of movies I enjoy.
Yeah,
just fun, dumb,
but still fairly clever. It had clever moments. It did.
Right.
But it definitely is what you would classify as a popcorn flick.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thing is, they could make another Dungeons & Dragons movie. Because of how Dungeons & Dragons is, you could have completely different people, completely different premise, and it would still just...
I would like to see them go back to the world, because it's Faerun, it's the Sword Coast, like they established, it's Neverwinter, and Waterdeep is nearby, and like all that stuff. They go to the Underdark. And I was like, oh, they could make a Drizzt movie.
They could make a Drizzt movie.
But the thing is while they have all of that, the way the movie ends, they can choose to revisit these characters. But in my opinion, what would be cool is if they would go back to the world and these characters would show up some other way, maybe interact with the new party. In the way that many D&D campaigns will pull from old characters and things like that. I think that the way they set it up, they can do pretty much anything they want with it.
They really need to, at the start of one of these, if it gets big and people start watching a lot, they really need to, at the start of one of these movies, introduce a character and then kill them off and then have the same actor play a different character.
That would be hilarious. Did you catch? I didn't catch this. I saw a trailer that they came out with later after the movie had launched. Did you catch that the group of people in the maze, in the labyrinth, is the cast from the original cartoon show?
Not at all.
If you look at the way they're dressed, they are the exact party from the original cartoon series.
That is amazing.
And they have now come out with a trailer where they see that scene in like a wizard pulls up a portal and they watch themselves and they go, "Hey, that's us." So
that's really cool.
Like they fully embraced that they wanted to point out that Easter egg to everybody, I thought it was a fun movie. I'm glad we all enjoyed it. For those of you who are listening, you should definitely check out the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. Super fun. Also very clean. If you have younger children.
Oh, yeah.
And when I say younger, I'm talking like preteen. I still probably wouldn't take a young child. There's some moments that might be a little spooky or scary or something.
Sure.
But like my daughter is 10, and I would easily choose to go and take her to it. It had a few curse words, things like that, but she knows what to say, what not to say. But as far as content goes, if you are concerned with what your like kids watching things that might be a little vulgar or, you know, a little sexual or whatever, there's none of that basically in this whole movie, which is crazy for a PG-13 comedy, in my opinion.
Especially like, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, spoiler for all of you, they don't joke about horny bards, which I love.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I was so glad to see that it wasn't just some parody movie.
Right.
As much as Pat likes satire.
I do like satire, but I am also glad it wasn't just a parody.
So excellent, fun, well done. CG's hit or miss. Like a lot of people have been criticizing the CG, but that's not why I went to go see it.
I didn't.
I mean, to me, your CG's only as good as the quality of the miniatures that are painted on the table, right? So maybe the wrong guy painted the minis. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's how I compared it to somebody. I was like, oh, so they didn't have the best painter. They didn't have, you know, so what? Who cares? It was still fun. Movie was still good. I also saw some people complaining that the backstories of the main characters are overly complex, but that's how players are when they create characters in D&D. Like, it's your opportunity to really get involved before the story hits, and you tend to give these like deep backstories so that your DM can then take it and incorporate it into the story.
Right.
And I thought that's exactly what it felt like happened in the movie. So I liked it. I liked it as somebody, and you know, there's the question of, can you watch it and enjoy it if you don't play D&D? The answer is yes, but there's so much more. If you understand anything that goes into playing D&D at all, there's just so much to enjoy.
Yeah.
Made me want to start playing again. I haven't played in years, and I'm like, oh, that makes me want to play.
Speaking of playing again, a couple weeks ago, I had my grandfather's 90th birthday party, and I reconnected with a couple cousins that play.
Oh.
And they said they might be getting a new campaign going in sometime in the future. And I gave them my contact info and told them if they needed another player, I'd be down to play. And if they need more players, I might let you know.
Works for me. I'll be an honorary cousin.
I'm good.
Technically, it's
Pat plays too much Dungeons and Dragons.
I was gonna say, like, I was gonna invite Pat, but I remember Pat DMs a couple and plays a couple.
I'm on the downhill. I think I'm gonna try to get out of it for a little while.
I've been out of it for years. That's my problem.
I mean, I imagine if I'm out of it for 2 or 3 years, I'll probably be like, man.
You know what we should play? But I don't know if our
Pathfinder.
No, if we're going to do that, we're going to play Starfinder, bro.
What are you talking about? Look right next to it.
Yeah, but I don't care about what's next to it. I want to watch.
Starfinder is a lot of fun. There are some issues with the game mechanics themselves, but it's a lot of fun.
But here's the thing: the company Monolith Games that made our Gotham City Chronicles Batman game that we think's cool, that we're going to be playing on live stream for our 70th. Episode.
Are we? That's fun.
I think that's what I said in episode 0. I think
guess
it was
I need
70
to make the
or
Twitch
something
account.
like that. I don't remember what episode it was, but I thought I said 70.
You should probably make the YouTube account too. Huh?
But anyway.
I mean, there's a lot of podcasts on YouTube.
There are.
I probably should make an email first.
Send us emails to longbox@guyswithissues.com. So here's the thing. That company kickstarted a Gotham City RPG, tabletop RPG, that uses all the miniatures from the board game.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I'm like, well, we have and it uses like the maps. You can use the maps from the board game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, technically, we own what we need to play that, except for the books. So there is that option.
There is that option.
But then we could play, because you don't have to play as like Batman or something. You can even play as villains. You can play as like, I think it depends on the style of campaign, but I believe you can play as like citizens of Gotham or police or like reporters or whatever. I don't know exactly how it would work functionality-wise.
I would like to play a kung fu instructor.
In like a local
a
dojo.
Karate instructor in a local dojo in Gotham.
That would probably be a pretty cool one.
Could be funny.
I'll be a sanitation worker with you.
Perfect.
I'll keep the streets clean.
You'll be somebody who comes part-time to exercise and learn karate.
I want to play this campaign already. Like that already sounds.
What about you, Will?
Oh, I was thinking about that.
It's definitely the spin-off crew to the Bat family. Like Batman's doing the big crimes, and you're like, oh man, there's a burglar.
Break this board real quick.
We're gonna mop him up
with your hand.
Sweep him off this.
Sanitation worker. Who else would we need?
I'd be the best janitor.
I see where you're going with
I
that.
feel like we need a taxi driver.
Oh, that'd be a thing. Yeah.
Oh man, a
Uber
Kung Fu
driver.
instructor.
I'm an Uber.
An Uber driver.
An
that'll
Uber
work.
driver and a sanitation worker clean up the streets of Gotham.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, 100%.
I would play that.
That'd be fun.
You hear it, episode 100.
He's making promises we probably can't keep.
You don't know that.
I'm just setting their expectations.
Maybe I'm setting their expectations,
Well, you need to
Patrick.
stop it.
We
So
need
anyway.
a set, but underscore.
Set underscore
But
expectations.
yeah.
Because now you went from the 70th. What were we doing
For
on the
the
70th?
board game.
The board game.
Yeah.
And then we're doing the RPG on the 100th.
Yeah.
All right.
Whatever. We're going to do something way before these.
Is
I feel
that
good about
Kickstarter
it.
going to get done before then?
It's in pledge manager mode now. I think it came out last year.
Oh.
And I don't know if the pledge manager's closed. I'm going to check because I think I might have missed it because I chose not to back it because I didn't want to spend the
Need to
money at the
invest in
time.
cameras if we're live streaming this.
You heard it here first. We're wasting money that we may not even use.
Not yet.
So, anyway,
I got a year at least, so.
but that would be a fun offshoot of a comic book podcast. Would be doing a comic book tabletop game.
I would.
That could be fun.
I mean, we could at least, if we don't live stream it, we could at least record it and post it.
Well, yeah.
What, you think we're going to live stream it? Oh, no.
I mean, he said live stream.
He needs to make editing magic because there's going to be too many. I don't know. Let me look that up.
Yeah. That's what it's like. Board game live streams can get long or maybe a little boring.
I don't know that I've ever seen I'm sure they're out there.
It probably depends on how many times you have to go, hold on, let me check the rule book.
I feel like, well, for some reason, I feel like Will Wheaton does a board game live stream.
He probably would. He's very active in the board game community.
Doesn't Dice Tower do like at least they have in the past, like a 24-hour
They do.
game-a-thon?
Dice Tower does board game playthroughs all the time on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
That's their
And they
shtick.
do, yes, they do like a game-a-thon.
Yeah, I thought they did like a 24-hour board game charity thing.
I
I
think
don't know
so.
if it's for charity.
I think it's a fundraising thing
Probably.
to raise funds for themselves, I think. Anyway, we digress.
There you go.
So,
There
but
you go. BS.
speaking, okay, here's the thing. Our we understand that some episodes, our random BS goes way too long. We get
long.
that. And that's why we include timestamps in the beginning of the episodes for those of you who are like, why won't these guys just talk about a flipping comic? And then we get to the comic and we spend like a third of the amount of time talking about the comic because that's what a book club is. A book club ultimately is just people connecting and chatting about the book they read, but also, at least in our circles, it's just kind of hanging out. And so we hope you feel like you get to hang out with us at our book club. And that's what this is. So enough of the Batman tabletop game. We're going to talk about some Batman for reals.
Man,
Knightfall.
Even though Batman is not real.
that was
That's not what we're saying.
an excellent segue.
Thank you. I thought it through for a minute as we were talking. But so we finally did it. We jumped in. You know, we debated when we started this up, when we said, hey, let's do this. We really debated dedicating this much time to a single story. We discussed if that's something we really wanted to do. Because we know some people want variety. They want us to jump around and talk about different things. And we're still going to talk about some different things in between reading this, the way that it's structured. But we decided to go in a big way. So this is gonna take several episodes. We're gonna probably have some interspersed other episodes.
Yeah, I think we're planning.
That's kind of what we talked about.
Kind of planning every other episode will be more of this.
Yes, and that's more for the way that our recording schedule tends to be, because we didn't want to read extra of this and split it into multiple episodes to where we know the future of the comic, like what we've read, and try to talk about previous parts of it and have opinions that are generated beyond that. So what we are doing is we are reading Knightfall. That is Knightfall, Night Quest, Night's End, the whole shebang. It's like a year or two of Batman comics. And this episode, we started with part 1, which is the first 11 comics in the series, first 11 parts. And I have been dying to talk about this since we read it. It's actually one of the first things we've read where I'm like, oh man, I cannot wait to talk about this. Because as somebody who has read Batman for a long time, I've never read this in its entirety. I've read parts of it.
It's one of our first big mainstream heroes. I mean,
Yes.
I guess last episode we talked about Shazam.
Yeah, and before that was Ninja Turtles, and that was kind of, that's cultural,
Like,
But this is Batman.
Yeah.
This is like one of the big 3, probably.
Yeah. Whoever it is you talk to.
Spider-Man up there. You know, people who worldwide recognize, like, this is somebody that is recognizable. Will, do you want to go ahead and read the synopsis? You want to read it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give it a shot.
Yeah.
So, Knightfall synopsis. Bane creates mass chaos in Gotham as he frees dozens of inmates from Arkham Asylum. Batman is pushed to his limits as Bane in the shadows waits for his opportunity to strike. Will Batman regain control of his beloved city, or will Bane break him in the process? So I have a problem sometimes when, like, reading comics, or, like, I guess technically books sometimes, where my eyes, like, just automatically want to skip lines.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have that problem.
Did you know that your brain doesn't actually read every word in a sentence when you are reading the sentence?
I did, yeah. That's a big thing of people posting online stuff that has mistakes, and your brain will skip the mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your brain fills things in as you read, which is why you can actually read faster than, like, internally than you do externally typically.
Or there's that thing, I've seen it a few times, it's pretty old, but they take this long paragraph and all the words, the first and last letter are correct, but they mix up all the letters in between. And it talks about how some people don't need to have the word correctly spelled and they can still read it.
Mm. Some people wouldn't know if it was incorrectly spelled.
Huh.
Yeah. Like me.
Like, who needs correct spelling?
It's a me, a bat.
That's right.
So, first off, I took a minute to do some research to know what came before this, because they reference things several times.
I wanted to, because they talk about how Batman is sick and he's been sick, and I didn't know if he had gotten sick before, but I wanted to read the whole thing to see if him being sick was actually part of the plot of Knightfall.
And they do kind of touch on that then.
I feel like
they do. It is.
Yeah.
Because there's a point where either Alfred or Robin talks about Batman being sick because he's stressed, basically. Mm. They mention that in one on a page. Is that it's actually like his mental fortitude is breaking. But I feel like his physical body is breaking.
I feel like he was sick before.
He was.
Okay.
Basically, obviously, he's still haunted by the death of Jason Todd, the previous Robin. Mm. That's kind of brought up a couple times.
At least once.
At least one time, really big.
when it's like part of the Batman's inner dialogue and he's talking, he's like,
and then it's
Jason Todd's still dead.
Well, isn't that
because there's that big thing? He's like, oh, a boy that's broken and he's gone. He's never coming back. And
you have the part with Scarecrow where that's what he sees when he gets gassed and he loses his crap.
Right.
He's not scared. He's like furious. So anyway, obviously Jason's death. So comic-wise, that happened in 1988. Knightfall came out in 1993. So it was several years after, but enough that comic time, only so much has passed. Mm-hmm. And then, they refer to having heard of Bane or know about him, but they don't really know him. And I guess right before, like a little ways before this, Bane's first introduction, which was called Batman Vengeance of Bane, that was like his first appearance. And that's where you have this whole thing where he'd fought Jean-Paul or Jean-Paul, and Batman first learned about who Bane was, and then Jean-Paul had been helped and then tasked with being trained by Robin after that, and he is known as Azrael, the Sword of Vengeance. So he has just found out before Knightfall that he had like a mental programming from this secret sect. They're almost like crusaders that have made him into like a sword of vengeance for the Lord. Kind of, they're like twisted sect of Catholicism, crusaderism kind of thing. And so he's known as Azrael. That's where that character comes from. And then right before the Arkham breakout, one of the last storylines, obviously they mentioned Riddler had been juiced with Venom, and they had like a fight that way. And Venom is the stuff that Bane uses to get like super big. And Batman had been fighting the Black Mask, and in his fight with the Black Mask, basically he started questioning if he was capable of doing what he's doing. So Batman's mentality had been on the decline, questioning whether or not he was strong enough, but he just kept pushing himself and pushing himself and pushing himself. And that's where the sickness thing comes in. He's just pushed himself so far beyond of his human limits at this point. And then the added stress and anxiety and all those things that actually can like toxify your body, like have completely started breaking him down, on top of the fact he doesn't sleep and he doesn't stop. He doesn't rest. What'd you like about it? I feel like there's a lot to like in this.
There's a lot to like.
Yes.
Like, so far we've read like a couple single issue stories, and like we've read a few arcs that are 5 or 6 comics. But personally, I enjoy like a slower, like evenly paced storyline. Like,
so having this more drawn out,
having
is something you prefer
building,
personally.
having it like spending more time with each character, having it build up slowly over time to like other major twists and stuff is something I personally just enjoy a little bit better. Other than like short little story arcs where you don't really get time to enjoy it before it's over.
You're gonna love the Green Lantern run then.
Yeah, that's what I'm
There's
looking
so
forward
much
to.
setup and payoff with that.
I'm really enjoying all the fact that they're bringing back most of Batman's enemies.
Yeah, with the Arkham.
Thing, and I'm also liking how smart Bane is.
Yeah, like I love enemies like that.
Yeah, he's doing such a good job wearing Batman down
without ever facing him.
Exactly. And I don't know how it would have went had Batman been at his 100% against Bane.
Yeah, definitely. Like the writing, character development, and everything like that is really good.
Oh yeah, so I think it's interesting because we chose to go back now 30 years. Like this came out 30 years ago this year.
You need to stop that.
That's crazy to think.
I was alive then.
I wasn't.
Yeah. Oh man, that makes me feel old too. Actually, I have a funny story about how this ties into one of my first comic books ever.
Let her rip.
I remember, but no, finish your thought first.
So this book is 30 years old. And you can tell, like, some of the things in it, you can kind of date it a little bit, culturally, maybe a little bit. But
by like the lingo they use.
Yeah. But here's the thing. The characterizations in this of many of the characters are the same ones that people think of today when they read Batman comics. And not only that, but the writing, like the actual plotting, like you were saying, like the burn of the reveals and the lead ups and like... I think this is a great example why a lot of people can talk about, storytelling changes over time and sometimes newer things tend to overshadow older things. But I think that this is such a good example of why you can't discount something because it's old. Like, this isn't a new story, but I think it's kind of, if you're into comics, if you find superheroes interesting, if you like Batman, this is a book you should read. Like, I feel like it's like a timeless thing. Like, you could be reading this another 30 years from now, and if you've been introduced to Batman, you'll be like, oh man, this is a good story.
Yeah, it holds up.
I agree.
It's just, I don't know. And I love stories when you get to see a protagonist. You get to see your hero go up against somebody, like you said, like Bane is very smart. He planned it all out. And some of our other comics that we're going to read that are Batman, like Hush and Long Halloween and books like that, they kind of have villains that can feel like that a little bit. Long Halloween's not a Batman direct adversary kind of moment. Hush is more so something like Knightfall, but it's only 12 issues long. But Knightfall just has a feel to it that you get to see Batman pushed by his like at this point, I would almost consider Bane like one of his greatest adversaries. Like the Joker can push him, but like Bane has, I mean, technically, spoiler alert, hopefully you guys check this out, but Bane beats him. Batman loses. Like
bad.
Batman loses. So one thing that people neglect to talk about sometimes with Batman is the fact he does lose. Batman does lose, and but he comes back and then he wins in the end. And just like if you've watched Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises, like Bane beats Batman then too. But he's just like a pawn of somebody else's in that one, where Bane is like the mastermind in this one.
Yeah. I mean, even within this comic, they use his failure as like a story mechanic because he fails against the pyro guy.
Oh, Firefly.
Right.
As like a measure of how weakened he's become.
Yeah, because Firefly's like a bee stringer.
Yeah, he's like, man, I can't. Someone as low class as Firefly, and I'm so weak right now. I can't even keep up with him. And none of the major players have ever made a move yet. How am I going to keep up with like Joker, Riddler, Bane if I can't even bring down?
Dude, the part with Riddler and his guys being like, "We're doing this anyway."
Yeah, that was funny.
That was funny. Man, why does he need to wait for people to guess a riddle? We're just going to go pull the heist.
Right. Yeah, that was good.
But that's just it though. Like they all get like these little spotlight moments too. Also with Firefly, he talks about how he's upgraded his suit and he has those wings now. And Batman's like, oh, he can carry the F drafts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what's cool about that is that Firefly now, if you see him in anything, I'm pretty sure he always has the wings. Like in the video games and different things like that, like Firefly has the wings. And I didn't realize Nightfall's when they had added that to his costume. That's kind of cool.
That is. Yeah, I agree.
Did you guys have like a favorite part, like a favorite scene or?
Well, I really like how Batman, like right before we ended, when he actually met up with Bane, he was saving, and I don't remember who it was, from the sewers, and all that water came rushing in.
Oh, he saved the mayor.
The mayor.
The mayor, okay. I thought it was somebody like that, but I couldn't remember. I really like how he kept pushing through, even though he was at his limit at that point.
Yeah, he has that one line where he's like, everyone has their limits, and he's like, but I push past mine.
Right. Yeah. I think that one was one of my favorite scenes, just because it showed you the grit and determination of the Batman.
Dude, this comic shows why, like when people are like, oh, everybody likes Batman. That's so lame. Batman's lame. You read this and you're like, everybody should like Batman.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he does a lot of the things, like nowadays, a lot of people are popular because of motivational things that they do. It's a big thing. And, this comic series has that overtone of, even if you hit your limits, if you just keep pushing and pushing, you can kind of see where it is you can go.
And then practically be dead.
Yeah, practically be dead.
It definitely shows that if you push yourself too hard, you have nothing left eventually.
And
go ahead. Did you have a favorite scene?
I think I enjoyed. It was actually the scene with Robin when he gets kidnapped.
I like that scene a lot too.
And like Croc shows back up and he's fighting with Bane.
Right.
Because it kind of sets the tone for like how strong Bane is, and also like how skilled
Robin is,
despite how young he is.
Tim Drake is like my favorite Robin.
Yeah, because he's quite. I don't know how old he is at this point, but he still lives with his parents. It seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's still in school, but it definitely follows like that same anime trope of the teenager that's way too muscular to be a teenager.
Right.
Because if you see him, he's got the full six pack and everything.
But he trains with Batman. Okay.
But he's still young. What is he on?
I mean, if I trained with Batman, I would probably have a six pack too.
That's what you need. We need to start like a gym. All the trainers just dress as Batman.
But we couldn't call it Batman.
No, you call it the Bat Cave.
DC wouldn't like that.
Just call it the Bat Cave.
We could. Or we can go with like Fat Man.
The Fat Cave.
There we go.
I don't know if that's the right kind of gym name. People think it was a restaurant.
Right. I'd go to the Fat Cave and eat like a burger or something. That'd be great.
That would actually be funny and have everybody like dressed as parodies of superheroes.
Anyway,
instead of
funny.
like Superman, it's Super Size Me Man.
But no, my favorite scene. I liked a lot of stuff. I almost mentioned the Robin one. There was a lot of cool parts, but I like the whole finale issue of Bane infiltrating Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
But more because it shows all the flashbacks that have worn Batman down. So it's like he's fighting through everything and he still won't just let it go. Like in that moment when Bane's there, Batman's like in a bathrobe, just wanting to go to bed, like literally getting ready. He's like, "Hey, Alfred, I know I'm not supposed to wear my suit up here, but like I'm so dead I can't take it off. I'm just going to bed." And he rounds the corner and, Alfred is downed and Bane is there. And he's like, "Fine." And he drops that robe off like he's some kind of prize fighter getting in the ring. And it's like, well, you want me, I guess you got me, man.
Time to throw it down, son.
And it's like, it's like you were saying, even though he is completely spent, he has nothing left. He's like, doesn't matter. I'm going to keep going then. And ultimately he loses. He's broken. His back is broken very clearly because it goes crack over the knee.
Very clearly.
Yeah, like the Gwen Stacy snap of the neck in Spider-Man. You see the word, the onomatopoeia words are the ones that are the most important in some panels, I think. But Bane beats him in the end. And it didn't matter that he pushed through everything because he had nothing left at that point, but it was but he wasn't going to give up. He wasn't going to quit. And I really want to read more because I know what happens. Like, I know the story of Knightfall from being in comics.
Yeah.
But like, I've never read the whole story. So I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to see the rest. But that whole final issue, I just love that they show everything that he's been through leading up to that point, though, and to show that he still won't quit.
Right.
Like, it's so good. Like, the storytelling of it is so good. And so here's a fun fact. When this comic, when the issue of The Breaking of the Bat came out, my dad heard that a store near us was having a day where Batman was going to be there, like dressed up. And at this point, I was under 10 and was like, and he's like, "You want to go see Batman?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love it." Because even back then, by that time, I believe I was watching the animated series and my parents had let me watch the 89 Batman movie with Michael Keaton. And so I was like, and my dad and I would watch the 66 Adam West Batman show all the time. And so I was like, "Yeah, I want to go see Batman." I'm a little kid. I'm like, "Of course I do." And so we go see Batman. And this issue had come out and they were giving them out. They were like, I think they had so many, they were giving them out away for free. It was like a promo thing for the shop. And my dad got me this issue. And I was like, oh man, I got a comic of Batman. It was one of my first comics ever. And I read through it. I remember sitting in my room and reading through it and getting to the end being like, he dies? Like, not knowing all of the things that led up to it, being a young child.
Right.
And getting to the end and going, this Bane guy just killed Batman? Like in that final panel in my child mind was like, Batman is dead. And so that's what started my life on comic books.
This can't be.
So
I don't believe you.
For years and years, I never even knew that comic book was like part of this big story and all this stuff. And so for me right now, getting to go through it and finally read the whole thing, I'm like, I love it because it was like one of the things that sparked my love of comics, even though I was super distraught by it. I think I might have cried. I don't remember. I'm like, Batman's dead?
One thing that really ticks me off about how DC has been handling their movies is this would be an excellent movie.
It would be, yeah.
I mean, just think about it. Like Rising. You have a whole bunch of movies where Batman.
Well, I mean, this
becomes
was the
Batman,
movie.
and then no, I mean like this, like where he goes back and fights all of his enemies, and like a trilogy or whatever, just of this.
Of just him getting to fight everybody.
Right. So, like Batman comes up and then he has different movies with this different villains and then they're all in Arkham and then this happens.
Oh, like an ongoing thing.
Yes, like the Marvel movie stuff.
I mean, clearly they tried. I mean, Christopher Nolan tried something like that because you had like Scarecrow show up from Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises, and you had Bane break him and do all that.
But it just wasn't.
But that movie's one of my least favorite. That is my least favorite of the three Christopher Nolans. As much as I like parts of it, it's not. It's got so many issues. And here's the thing, Pat.
What's up?
I'm going to give the hot take. This is actually going to be where a lot of viewers are just going to shut us off.
Lay it down for me.
I, for the most part, like the DC movies. I do. Most of them.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that they do mishandle things, but any more Marvel mishandles all their stuff too. Like nothing Marvel came out with last year was good.
Well, it's a different medium as well.
Now, comic-wise, not always, but in recent years, I've learned that as a whole, I do prefer DC comics, like their universe and the way they tell stories, over the way most of Marvel's stories are told. But there are certain heroes I really enjoy their comics of in Marvel. But like for me personally, like this is a great example of like why I feel like I enjoy DC so much. It's because I feel like they capture this kind of feel in a lot of their materials that are like the must-read kind of materials. And I don't feel that as much with some of Marvel's stuff, but that's me personally. That's like the type of storytelling I like. Because I don't think it's I'm Marvel and I'm DC, like so many people argue about, like, I like the Marvel movies, DC sucks. Or like, DC's movies are good, Marvel's aren't that good. Like, you always hear that. But instead, I like to just be like, I really like comics and superheroes, and I really kind of enjoy all of it, and both of them have missteps.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But the hot take is, I enjoyed the uncut, like the director cut version of Batman v Superman. I enjoyed Man of Steel. I have a lot of friends that aren't big fans of that. I have a good handful that do like it.
So those two that you specifically brought up there, I don't have any problems with them, but like Batman versus Superman was it was slow. It should have been extended into like 2 or 3 movies.
Did you see? Well, it was supposed to.
It was A, slow, and B, too much crap packed into it.
Did you watch the director cut?
The Snyder cut.
Of Justice League.
Yeah, that was Justice League. No,
Did you watch the?
Yeah, I watched the director cut.
The director cut to me does improve.
It improves
BVS
it
quite a bit
because
you learn that Lex
better.
Luthor was actually masterminding the whole thing.
Yeah,
and they cut that out, and I'm like, that's really important,
right?
Like that's an odd thing to choose to cut out of a movie.
I mean, they did that with Justice League,
which is why.
Don't even talk about that. Snyder Cut is incomparable to the other.
Oh, 100%.
Snyder Cut is a different movie entirely because they took the plot out of the first one. Like the original release and the Snyder Cut have 2 different plot lines.
Dude, my wife hates most of the DC units. Okay, she dislikes most of it. She doesn't like BVS. She does like Man of Steel pretty well. She hated Justice League. When we went and saw it in theaters, she was like, that was just not good. But she sat down and watched the Snyder Cut, all 4 hours of it with me, and she was like, I liked that movie.
It was really good.
And so, yes, it's long. I think it's cool that they do it in parts, just like big comic arcs. Like you can sit down and you don't have to watch it all at once. But yeah, well, now it's like, that universe is gone anyway. Like they're flushing it, starting fresh, basically. I don't care anymore. I just want good movies. I just want cool moments on screen with these heroes that captures who they are. That's what I want. That's all I want. And hopefully they do that. We'll see. The Blue Beetle movie looks like it's got some potential.
I don't even know what movie you're talking about.
Oh, I'll show it to you.
All right.
I say this in almost every episode at this point. I'll show you the trailer after we're done recording. But anyway, okay, so as far as characters, because we did get to see a whole bunch of different characters, did you have a favorite character in this part of the story so far? You got to see a lot of besides Batman. I mean, like, it's easy to be like, well, Batman was the best character, but
as far as villain wise, I think the ventriloquist was funny.
Oh, I love the ventriloquist. He's one of like my favorite offshoot characters.
Sacco,
yeah, Scarface.
He's crazy enough to be like, oh, this puppet's not me, it's somebody else.
That was a good one. And the Sacco thing was funny. Yeah. And then he's like, we'll need a cop. And then he says a cop puppet.
I've got a cop.
that was funny.
That was pretty good.
That was funny.
I also feel like that might...
Although that guy died really badly. The cop in the booth.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, man.
I would say my favorite character, I mean, other than Robin, I'm going to try to take superheroes out of this.
Like, you're trying to take... but do you think Robin was a standout, though?
I do.
Because I thought about saying Robin for mine, too, actually.
Right.
I think Robin really stands out.
Right, because even though Batman was trying to keep him from doing anything, which I both disagree with and agree with.
Yeah.
I understand Batman's reasoning, but come on, you're an idiot.
You're like almost dead.
Right. You're almost dead. Get some help. You know, send in second shift. I would say probably the Riddler, just because he's got a thing. And you know what? He tried to stick to it. He stuck to it. He actually stuck to it. Even though the guys he went with didn't. I mean,
I love when he's giving all the clues to the studio audience and he's like, how did none of you know the answer to that?
Right. It's just, yeah, I don't know why I've always liked the Riddler.
I don't know if this is like kind of a lame one to pick. I really liked Bane. I do. I just like that you got to see him working that way, and you see him, the way he operates with Robin and how he tries to kind of be, he's like, look, man, I'm willing to kill you, but I don't really have to kill you. You're not the one that I'm putting in the ground. And then you have him like fighting Croc. And it's interesting to have, it's very rare to have a villain that is as skilled in the physicality and as like juiced up as he can be, and also matched in intellect. And it was cool to see that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I also, as a character that I didn't like, there's that book peddler. I wasn't a big fan of him. The guy who was like, in my book, we're all sane.
Yes. Oh, the idiot on the news.
Sane like me.
Yeah.
And then Riddler comes up and he's like, I think I need a new job. But I kept waiting to find out that was actually like somebody in disguise or something. I was like, what is the point of this? I feel like there might be some commentary there, a tie to something that either we haven't seen or maybe it was like cultural at the time.
It's possible.
I don't know. Yeah. I want to kind of look it up. I would say Bane really stands out. I mean, obviously he's the central bad guy, but the way he's not even like in the book that much though.
Right.
And I feel like when he is though, it's pretty cool. I like his little posse, like the Falconer guy and stuff like that. Zombie makes his venom or whatever.
I mean, I also think it's interesting about how when Bane was being created, let's say, growing up in the prison, being in solitary confinement for how many years?
Right.
And then maybe, like, they didn't even feed him in solitary confinement. They just tried to drown him every night, and he had to catch his own food and everything else.
And he's like...
a little ridiculous, if you ask me, but, I mean, he survived, and the only reason he's going after Batman is because he's using the same symbolism as he internalized as his fear. That's the only reason he's going after Batman. There's no other reason behind it, which I think is really interesting as well. Because he's this really strong, really smart, evil person because of how, I mean, just, you know, a product of how he was raised and what they did to him. And he's still crazy because who does that?
Right. Oh, he's definitely crazy.
Yeah, he's still, I mean, it's interesting.
Something that I think is interesting is I watched a video about the mentality of the Arkham inmates. It was an actual psychologist, like, talking about their diagnosed problems. And he talked about how many of the ones, like the Joker, wouldn't actually be put into a mental hospital. They would have just been put in prison because he's exhibited the ability to work beyond what they claim is his mental problem. And he's actually a true criminal. Sorry, we were talking about him being crazy, and that's what I what I thought about. Did you have any things you didn't like about it?
Well, I mean, other than Batman not allowing Robin to do anything, that one kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And that stupid guy pushing his book on the news shows. No, the rest of it was pretty good. I can't think of anything else other than that.
I'm kind of withholding until the very end.
Say if you didn't like something.
You think that guy with the book's really going to pull it out in the end?
Just to really see like what's what. Like I don't want to say I dislike or like something without having
more context.
Wow. Way to withhold.
Yeah. Way to leave our listeners in just
absolute suspense. I'll let them know.
Absolute suspense.
I respect your stance, while I am not going to take the same. You want to know something I didn't like?
Yes, I do.
I didn't like, and this would be my least liked character. I think it falls under. I had written down that we could share if we had a character we didn't really like. I also think that the scene with Zaz was kind of intense. I think he can be a really kind of character in a lot of stuff. The guy that cuts himself, the serial killer.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Zaz. Yeah. He's in a lot of different things that I've read. But you want to know somebody that I didn't like, something I didn't like, that was kind of, was that other serial killer. What's his name? Cirque, something like the dude that like gets you scared and then cuts your heart out and eats it.
Oh, the guy where the Scarecrow was like...
Where Joker tried to hire him first.
That guy's a knockoff.
So I read that he'd been in the comics for a while, like he'd been like an ongoing problem, like a serial killer. And that's what he does, right? Like he scares people and then their chemical release that's in their body, then he like tries to eat them while it's still in there or whatever. And I'm just like, I think there's a reason that we don't see him in comics today.
Yeah.
I feel like he's one of those like, here was a new villain for a little bit. But he doesn't really, it's like, I mean, this comic pretty much calls out. He doesn't have his own shtick. Like he tries to scare people before he kills them, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, good. A fear-inducing cannibal serial killer. I think that, with Batman, I understand that you can't always just rely on his rogues gallery. It's like you don't always want to pull out Scarecrow for being scary, and you don't always want to pull out Zaz for being a serial killer and things like that. And Batman fights many, many people. There's so many people Batman's fought over the years that he just fights for like a story arc.
Yeah, they say that he filled most of Arkham himself. Like pretty much everybody in there is somebody that he's caught.
Which is why those villains are not villains at all. They're a product of our society. And that if Batman wouldn't dress like Batman, they wouldn't be.
Like if I wanted to really kind of like nitpick, I don't know if this comes up later, but there's that scene where Robin talks to the ghost nun. And I'm like, I didn't know Robin had that psychic ability to talk to ghosts, or if this was just like a one-off thing.
I do not believe Tim Drake has a psychic ability to talk to ghosts.
And then it kind of like
you do watch a lot of anime, don't you?
Not too much, but
I feel like that's somebody who watches a lot of anime would say.
That is true. Someone who does watch a lot of anime will deny it, but since comics are basically American manga, aren't we all?
Or is manga Japanese comics?
I don't know. Which came first, the comic or the manga?
I mean, comics have been around since like the late 1800s or early 1900s.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I don't either. I mean,
Japan is a lot older than America. So I mean, like, who knows? But
let us know in the comments. Oh, sorry.
Write us an email at longbox@guyswithissues.com.
It was like they had written themselves into a corner of how does Robin figure out Firefly's background? And they're like, oh crap, he's not online. The sister doesn't know anything. We've kind of written ourselves into a corner. So how do we get out of this? Robin is just going to find a ghost nun.
Ghost nun to the rescue.
Yeah, I think it just fits with, I'm not saying it wasn't cheap.
It fits with the Detective Comics.
It fits kind of in the
I mean, like,
universe of comic books, I think.
like Batman does have supernatural enemies and like supernatural like magic is a thing, and
Oh yeah, I mean he's part of the Justice League.
yeah, and
He knows John Constantine. You know, he's worked with Zatanna.
Man, we need to read Constantine.
We could read some
We need
Constantine.
to
It's
read some
DC.
Constantine. Sorry.
that'd be good. But I don't know, it just felt like a cheap way out of a corner
It
that they had
probably
written
was.
themselves into.
I'd like to see if it comes back to play, but
That's what I was saying. You know,
it
if
probably won't. I'm gonna guess it doesn't.
if Robin comes back and talks to some more and becomes Ghost Whisperer,
Becomes Ghost Rider. Oh wait, no, that's not a comic book character.
Oh,
that's DC or that's Marvel.
That's Marvel. Yeah,
Ghost
see,
Rider's
that's
Marvel.
never gonna happen.
they have some crossovers. Usually they end up fighting each other until they realize they have to team up and
Well, sure, but Robin doesn't become Ghost Rider ever.
no. So overall, I feel like it sounds like we all really liked this so far.
So far,
Yeah,
I'm
so
really
far
enjoying
it's
it.
For the part we've read,
for the part we've read.
do you think we should either do out of 5 broken bats or escaped inmates?
Escaped inmates.
Escaped inmates.
yes.
Okay. So Pat, out of 5 escaped inmates, where are you going to rate this so
Out
far?
of 5 escaped inmates, I'm going to rate this a 5.
Oh, there it is. It didn't take
Pat-
as many episodes as we
Yes.
thought it might, but Pat had a 5 because he would suggest this.
I
to
would
somebody.
suggest
Yes.
this to somebody because this is really good.
What about you?
I was gonna say 4.5.
Okay. Nice.
It's 4.
One of the inmates got blown up or maybe was a ventriloquist dummy.
It's the guy that ran into the tree, knocked himself out. It's like, you weren't that much of a mastermind, huh? Work in progress, 4.5. Could go up, could go down, depending on how it progresses.
Deep down, part of me wants you to end up being the lowest this time because I'm like always the lowest. Okay, I'm gonna go with Pat on this. I have to give it a 5.
Yeah.
Every time I sat down to read more of this, I just wanted to keep reading, and I kept thinking, even though this is a bit older than what a lot of people are probably reading now, this to me just captures so much. Just this first half of the first section of the 3. I think it has so much that's worth reading. I will have to add it to my collection. I don't own this, but now I have to. I'm going to have to add it.
I do.
Yeah, I know, because the one that you bought's the one I thought about buying at the time.
Right. And then you're like,
Yeah.
no,
I'm like,
not
I
going
shouldn't
to.
spend the
And then
money.
I was like,
and you're
all
like,
right,
okay,
I'll
I'll
buy
buy it because it was half off.
it.
And
I
I
let you think about it
I
for a
know.
good like 20 minutes. And
Well,
then you're like, no, I'm not doing it.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Had I read it already, I would have bought it, no question.
I'm glad I bought it. I really am.
No, it's one that I now have to add to my collection. I have to.
I also like how it's a newspaper paper in there.
Yeah.
It is fun. I have like a hard copy of The Long Halloween
Yeah.
that I've been reading. And I can say that like having the physical comic book is better than reading digitally.
100% every time. I enjoy it so much more.
Yeah.
I know some
agree.
people that only ever read like regular books, hard copy. For that, I don't care whether it's just a regular book or not. It could be digital, it could be physical. Doesn't really oh, that was a fun sound.
Wow,
But
that
like
was
comic
awesome.
books are way different. Having the physical book with you is just way better than
And how you can really look at the panels and look at
Yeah.
the layout and like it's not
side
the
by
same.
side.
It's just
Like-
not.
Yeah.
I like how if none of you would have pointed that out about that sound, he could have cut it easily.
Oh no. We're not gonna let that pass.
I'm just saying.
I could still cut that whole segment, but it would be fun. It's funnier to
Well-
leave things.
That's fine.
Funny.
Now you're gonna have to leave this one in because
Because now
you
we're
brought
explaining
it
the
up.
other one. And it's just making this podcast even longer.
Who cares?
It's almost
Yeah.
like it's an issue.
Oh man,
So many more to go, too.
that's good. Yeah, I'm super excited to get into the next one. Now, the next episode, it may be something else that we have yet to determine. Unless, well, you said you want to read Constantine. You want to read a Constantine?
Yeah, let's read a Constantine.
Okay, so the next episode will be a selection from Constantine. We'll be sure to post it in.
Posting.
But anyway, until next time,
I'm Patrick.
This is Will.
and I'm Chris, and we are Guys,
Guys
with
with
Issues.
Yeah, what they said.
Yeah, what they say.
Down.
You can catch the new issue of Guys with Issues each week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
Or check out our website at guyswithissues.com, where you can listen, find reading lists, follow along, and get to know us better.
You can also find us on Instagram at guys_with_issues and on Facebook at Guys with Issues.
Send us emails to longbox@guyswithissues.com and tell us your thoughts, or send us suggestions on what we should read next. We would love to hear from our listener. Long drawn out silence.
I edit all these down.
Oh, good.
No, all of them.
No, I
Yeah.
understand.
Makes it seem like we're more intelligent than we are.
No, there are times where I definitely make our responses like snappy.
Yeah.
I just imagine one day we'll have a panel somewhere and people will be like, these guys are way dumber than we thought they were.